wanna talk? So let's talk. Yeah. Talk. You wanna talk? You gotta talk, you need to talk. News talk.
I talk, you talk to Solomon. I talk, you talk to Solomon. Yeah, let's talk to Solomon. Talk to Solomon.
You gotta talk, you wanna
Welcome to Talk to Solomon. That's me, Stan Solomon. My co-host today is my friend Brent Johnson from freedomradio.us. Brent, are you with us?
I sure am. And Stan, I have a comment I wanted to make. I happen to disagree. I think if we had a Republican Senate, Republican House, and a Republican President, there's no reason to believe that the Republicans will hold him responsible, just like they didn't hold Bush responsible for his excesses when they had that. I think that our system is designed to have each house held by a separate party. It's the only way it works.
Well, I understand that, and that's a valid point. The only problem is we have one American-oriented party, and we have one non-American, un-American-oriented party, unfortunately, instead of two American-oriented parties. Well, our guest, James Hutchens, is going to talk to us about someone who doesn't like our country or some other countries. James, how are you?
I'm doing well, Stan. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Well, I'm a retired Army chaplain, 37 and a half years, retired as a Deputy Chief of Chaplains with the rank of Brigadier General. I head up an organization called the Jerusalem Connection, jerusalemconnection.us, not .org, .com, .us. We are a Christian Zionist organization. We make no apologies for that. Christian Zionist, as we understand it, refers to those who support the modern state of Israel as at least a partial fulfillment of what God has promised with regard to the covenants concerning a national homeland for the Jews. We have a website, we have an e-newsletter, we have a video that we send out each Tuesday. I like to think of us as kind of a drudge report dealing with all things Israel, particularly from a biblical viewpoint. That's us.
And that's Jerusalem.us.
JerusalemConnection.us.
JerusalemConnection.us.
Right.
All right. Very good, James. And my co-host is Brent Johnson, who I would consider to be certainly a person who believes that there should be a state of Israel. He's Jewish. I'm Jewish. So you're on friendly turf, shall we say.
Oh,
now,
good. Good among Hoosiers as well.
Okay. Now, let me ask you the story that was brought to me that we'll talk about among others is that Iran, whether it's Ahmadinejad or King Tut or whoever is in charge over there, or one of their generals, they almost are all saying the same thing in different ways, and that is they feel it is their right, they feel it's their obligation, they feel it's their destiny, they feel it's a fulfillment of their faith to murder and destroy all human life, whether it's Jewish or otherwise, they don't seem to care, in Israel. Is that a fair statement?
It is, and I think it's especially fair to point out that this is a religious emphasis that they have. We don't want to talk about it being a religious war or a religious confrontation, but they will talk about that in a moment's notice. They see this as an opportunity, ultimately, to impose Islam on the world. Ahmadinejad sees himself as kind of a John the Baptist, a forerunner for the 12th Imam, who will be their Messiah. Ahmadinejad will create the catastrophes and the chaos that are necessary for the 12th Imam to come in and to bring peace. So they definitely see this as a religious confrontation. We don't want to talk about that, but that's in fact what it is.
Brent?
Well, this is, while it's true, I was raised as a Jew, and I also believe in Yeshua, Jesus, and I have read scripture from cover to cover many, many times in many different versions. I'm not a biblical scholar, but I consider myself somewhat knowledgeable about scripture. And I do not hold the belief that the Israelis are the Israelites of Scripture. I do not hold the belief that the chosen people are living in the state of Israel. I believe the two are very, very different. Now, I happen to feel very strongly that, well, I don't necessarily disagree with you on Iran and many of the enemies of Israel and how they foment religious war. But I do not believe that the state of Israel is exemplary. I do not believe the state of Israel has behaved properly. I do think that the government of Israel has also gone to great excesses in its pursuit of eradicating the threat or the perceived threat. And so, I'm not going to sit there and just arbitrarily rubber stamp everything that Israel does here.
All right. Well, and Brent and I don't agree on that, but it's still, it is interesting, perhaps, to talk about the fallacies of humans and certainly Israelis among them. But to compare the two, I think, is like comparing a jaywalker with a homicidal maniac. At least that's my feeling. General?
Well, I think you're right. And I don't think anybody's saying that the modern state of Israel is exemplary in the sense that they totally represent God, or they're even God-fearers for that matter. But I do think that what has happened in Israel and the creation of the modern state of Israel is an act of God. And I think, for example, Ezekiel chapter 36 spells this out. He says, God says, I'm going to bring back my people who have profaned my name. He uses that term profane some 5 times in Ezekiel 36. So this is not a believing, a God-fearing people. These are people who have profaned, blasphemed the name of God. As a matter of fact, I'm not taking you back because of what's happened to you, but I'm taking you back because of my name's sake. So he's bringing them back into the land, and he has. And then Ezekiel 36 speaks of a spiritual renewal that takes place. So nobody's advocating that we've got a covenant people totally in covenant with the God of Israel. That's not the case, but it's a work in progress toward that end. He said, you mentioned, Brett, you're a Messianic Jew. That's the end product of the remnant that will turn to Jesus, Yeshua, as Messiah. But going back to our discussion here with Israel and Iran, Israel sees this as a survival issue. We see our relationship to Iran as a foreign policy issue, and that's totally different. They see it as a threat to their very existence. And as a result of that, they will take action. It's not a matter of if there's going to be a war in the Middle East with Iran, but it's a matter of when. We're postponing the inevitable, in my view. So, but I think we have to recognize likewise that it's not only Iran, but the glue that holds the Islamic world together is their hatred of Israel. They can fight among themselves, Sunni and Shiite and so on. They can kill each other over those issues. But when it comes to Israel, you've got Sunnis, you've got Shiite, you've got Hezbollah in the north, you've got the Syrians, the Salafists, you've got Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade, plus Iran, plus the rest of the Muslim world, the Saudis, all the rest of them. That's the glue that holds them together. And so Israel recognizes that, and I'm persuaded that there is a line in the sand that only they know at this point, over which, if and when Iran actually crosses it, that Israel will take the necessary steps to preemptively take out their nuclear capability.
Well, I think that would be only a step and not a solution. But Brent, we talked in the last hour, or in the last hour and a half, about packaging. I'd like you to address how both the Israelis on their side and the Muslims, all of them, I say there's not a scintilla's worth of difference between one and another. I don't think there's a single Muslim on the face of the earth that wouldn't celebrate the destruction of Israel and the death of millions or all Jews. Do you disagree with me?
Are you asking me or Brent?
I'm asking Brett.
I'm not one to go for superlatives to say there isn't a single one that I would have to disagree with, because I do believe that there are always exceptions to any rule. However, I think from a packaging perspective, I think the general has stated it very correctly that the Middle East and Iran have this as a religious war, that Israel has this as a matter of survival, and that the U.S. has this as foreign policy. Here's where I run into a problem. Because I actually agree with you, General, but where I run into a problem is I've seen atrocities perpetrated in the name of survival. And again, I know you're not going to like the comparison. It's not intended as a comparison, Stan. It's intended as a historical perspective, both modern U.S. and old Germany. Hitler said that the German people's survival was at stake, and that's why they had to go after the Jews. Today, the police, the SWAT teams have gone in and literally murdered innocent people, and their justification is, we feared for our survival. I agree that when survival is at stake, it changes the parameters, it changes the playing field. I'm not certain as to how to reconcile some of the atrocities that various states perpetrate in the name of survival. In the case of Israel, where I have a problem is the idea of a preemptive strike, the idea that we think something's going to happen, so we have the right to go in and wipe these people out because we think something's going to happen. What if you're wrong? What if you make a mistake? Is the price too high? This is where I run into trouble.
All right, let's let James respond. General?
Well, I just say, what if they're right? What if they're right? And all the indications are that they are right. All the indications, as far as Iran is concerned, is that we are going to move toward nuclear capability, and we're going to use it. We're going to use it against Israel. We're going to use it against the United States. The little Satan, the big Satan, they've declared what they're going to do. And for Israel to wait around and see if they do it or not, I think is irresponsible. I wouldn't expect our own government to do that. I would not want that at all. I would vigorously endorse their doing something preemptively to see that doesn't happen. I think that's folly, frankly.
Well, I would go further than that, General. You're being nice. If someone were to say to me, or to say publicly, knowing that I would hear it, it was their intention within the next period of time, whether it's a year or 2 years, to come to my home and destroy my family.
Exactly.
If that came from their mouth, not once, not twice, but multiple times, both verbally, in writing, in communication, where anyone, everyone, and all ones have heard it,
I'd take them at their word.
I would be irresponsible not to take them at their word. When I look back at some of the tragedies that have happened throughout the world and in our country and in our community, wherever that happens to be, you hear about someone who said they were going to do something. I'm going to kill my wife. I'm going to kill my kids. I'm going to blow up City Hall, whatever it is that people are saying. And again, we all get mad and say stupid things. I understand that. But to say it on an ongoing basis and no one did anything about it because they hadn't actually done it, and then they did do it, and everyone said, what? Why? Why aren't you listening? Why didn't you pay attention? I think we hear that all the time after the fact. The only problem with after the fact in Israel is there'll be no one to hear it because they'll all be dead.
Yeah. Well, even President Obama said that containment is not an option, that the United States doesn't stand behind containment, that we do stand behind the elimination of Iran's nuclear capability. Now, he's in an election year, and he's going to do what's necessary to get himself elected. I'm persuaded of that. And so the initial steps he has taken to encourage Israel not to do this, I mean, he's made certain promises for these super bunker buster bombs. He's made promises for airplanes that can fly to and fro back and forth from Tehran without refueling, other carrots that he's put out there. But he has said containment is not an option. And I believe he's right. But I think that he, as a matter of fact, I would go so far as to say, if it gets right down to the wire as far as his election's concerned, and he is desperate to be reelected, I'm persuaded of that. And if he thinks that he could be reelected by a preemptive strike on Iran, he would do it, believing that the American people do not want to change commanders in chief in the midst of a war. I think he would do that.
Right.
So I think, yeah.
So you say, I agree with you both when you say if somebody comes out there and says, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to come to your house, I'm going to wipe out your family, you take action. However, you take defensive action. You do not suddenly say, somebody threatened me, I'm going to blow them up. Because if you do, you have people in total chaos blowing each other up because people are threatening each other all the time. You speak softly, you carry a big stick, you defend, okay? You trust, but you verify, you defend. Now, I understand what you're saying. If Israel was to drop a nuclear bomb on, if Iran was to drop a nuclear bomb on Israel, okay, it's a little bit late to defend. I understand that as well. However, first off, I wrote a commentary many years ago, and it holds true today. It's entitled, How Do You Know It's True? And it's so important that you know that these things are true before you go forward. Otherwise, you're acting based on paranoia. And that, too, is going to lead to injustice and killing and murder and unnecessary murder. So what happens is, how do you know it's true? Well, we have looked at, you say, General, that we know Iran is trying to form a weapon. I disagree. We do not know that. We have investigated, we have inspected, and we have found no empirical evidence that Iran is actually going after weaponized nuclear energy. Now, hang on. I know that you're going to disagree with me on this stand.
Absolutely.
However, even if they are going after it, it would be clearly detected beforehand. And not to mention, Israel has hundreds of nuclear warheads that Israel itself refuses to acknowledge it has, because it would be a violation of the non-proliferation treaty that Israel also refuses to sign.
It's not a violation,
Israel is not exemplary in it.
Brent.
Well, you're supposing, Brent, that the preemptive strike would be a nuclear strike. I don't think Israel's indicated that at all. I think they've said what they would do is neutralize Iran's nuclear capability. Now, Israel does have what they call the Samson option, and that's a very real option. And it basically says, and I've talked to people over there who've affirmed this to me, it basically says what Samson did when he was blinded and his hair was cut, he lost his strength, he was captured by the Philistines, put in a temple between the pillars of the Philistine temple, and with his strength he pushed it down, took out his own life, but he took out the Philistines as well. And what Israel is saying is, if we go down, there's a lot of people going down with us. As a matter of fact, I am satisfied in myself that what's going on over there right now has biblical proportions. Zechariah chapter 12 speaks of a time where God says, I'm going to make Jerusalem a cup that sends all the surrounding peoples reeling. I'll make Jerusalem an immovable rock, and those who try to move it will injure themselves. He says, I'll make the leaders of Judah like a firepot and a woodpile, like a flaming torch among sheaves, and they will consume right and left all the surrounding peoples. Now, what we're seeing today is Israel surrounded by hostile nations, hostile forces. Hamas, the other jihadists in the south, in Gaza, Hezbollah, Syria in the north, Iran in the east. So the table is set for something like this. Whether it happens now or not, I don't know. But there is a prescription and a prediction, actually, of this, something comparable to this taking place, and Israel has the capability of doing it today.
And I agree that with Brent, that no one wants to see a single innocent child. That's why we're all pro-life. No one wants to see a single innocent person. That's why we believe in God and believe that God is in charge.
Yeah.
Here's the reality. The Muslim faith, and again, I agree with Brent, we can't say every single one, but I'm going to say the vast majority. The Muslim credo is to die doing Allah's will is not good, it's the ultimate good.
Yeah,
So
it's a
you have a
martyr
mentality that says we don't care if 1 million or 1 billion Muslims die if we can just kill the Jews and eliminate Israel. James?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's you're right on. But I think it doesn't stop there. They want to institute a universal caliphate in which Islam is the rule of all nations. And there has to be a chaos, a whole series of catastrophes that are created, that exist for this to happen. And their version of the Messiah, the 12th Imam, comes and he suppresses all this and brings peace. I think this is false. I think it's a false religion. I think it's a false hope. But I think that's what they believe. And we have to deal with what they believe and how they intend to bring about what they believe. Because they have stated, as you pointed out, time and time again, verbally in their writings, all the charter documents, for example, all the charter documents of the Palestinian Authority, Hamas, Hezbollah, all these people call not for a two-state solution. Palestinians don't want a two-state solution. They're calling for a one-state solution. And that is where Palestine replaces what we know as modern Israel. Matter of fact, if you see a map of Palestine today, any Palestinian, it's an overlay of the modern state of Israel. So they're aware of this, and the jihadists are committed to this, and it's just a matter of time before it actually happens.
All right, we are out of time. The website to follow James Hutchens' work, General Hutchens, is thejerusalemconnection.com.
.us.
Jerusalemconnection.us.
Exactly.
And so we encourage you to go there. We thank you, General, for your information, and it was a good discussion. And, you know, we don't all have to agree on everything, but we do agree that there's a God in heaven, and
Amen.
The land of Israel is the spiritual, historic home of God's people.
Past, present, and future.
There you go. All right. Thank you, sir.
Amen.
Appreciate you being with us. We'll be back with Dr. Alan Keyes.
Thank you, General.
Stay tuned, folks.
You bet. Thank you.
Do you like being healthy? I do. In fact, this product, which I've been taking for years now, is absolutely the answer. Now, you may not believe it, but I'm actually 21, plus tax, of course. This product has 146 different healthful nutrients in it, and it's liquid, so it's bioavailable. It tastes great, and it's sugar-free. 1 ounce of Sonic Life each day will help you to maintain and enhance your health. It's the kind of a gift, well, that you'll thank your mom for, your husband for, your wife for, your kids for. Whoever you give it to, they're going to say thank you, and you are going to enjoy the benefits of having all the vitamins, all the minerals, all the nutrients your body needs in one very reasonably priced product. Just go to cpnlive.com, and everything's right there. You'll be able to read all the ingredients. The price is right there, a flat price delivered to your door anywhere in the United States of America. Sonic Life is a gift, a great gift. Give it to yourself. I do. You have a computer, if you're alive today, which means you have a hard drive, which means it's going to break down. Mosey, the backup people, for thousands, for Stan, for thousands of people, for tens of thousands of people, is simply common sense. You go to cpnlive.com, click on the icon for Mosey, the backup people, and sign up. It's just a few dollars a month. Let me tell you something. We had a break-in. They stole our whole computer. You know what? When they take the computer, you can't recover anything, but we had Mosey. We had the backup. We were able to restore everything simply by buying another computer. cpnlive.com, click on the icon for Mosey the Backup People, and give yourself common sense, peace of mind, great value, the best thing you've ever done. Sooner or later, it's going to be Mosey the Backup People. Do you like to eat? I do. We all run to the store if we're hungry, right? Well, there are times when that doesn't work. And for those times, and it may be for an hour, and it may be for a day, and it may be for a week, who knows, God's in charge, you need to have quality food. Alpine Air, that's what this is, quality food. It has extended shelf life, and it tastes great. You should store what you eat and eat what you store. Just go to cpnlive.com, click on the icon for the Alpine Air foods. It's incredibly reasonable. It's actually a way to save money. Alpine Air has quality food that's going to be there when you need it. It's always better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Alpine Air at cpnlive.com. Click on the icon and protect your family.